Let's move on to the second part of social media monitoring, measurement. A key question any manager is going to ask when launching a new advertising campaign is what's the return on investment? What's the ROI? With social media, it can be really difficult to measure ROI. However, measurement is no longer optional today for a social media marketing campaign. Measuring the effectiveness of a social media campaign enables marketers to assess their progress towards achieving marketing goals and overall business goals. Before we can talk about how to measure social media marketing campaigns, let's go over a couple of definitions, the first being a metric. A metric is a number. And a few key metrics that we'll use during social media campaigns are reach, which is the number of people exposed to your post or your message, frequency, which is the average number of times an individual is exposed to your post or your message, and site stickiness, which is the ability of your site to draw repeat visits and the ability to keep people on the site for an extended period of time. So these are three metrics that we use when we're measuring the effectiveness of our social media campaign. And let's take Facebook as an example. If you post a Facebook post, what you want to know is how many people saw that, what your reach was, the average number of times each person saw that ad, and then how often those people went to your website and stayed on your website. So those are three examples of metrics that you'll use. We also need to talk about key performance indicators, or what we call KPIs. A KPI is a metric that helps us understand how we're doing against our objectives. So they're metrics that directly measure the impact on achievement of our business objective. So a couple of KPIs that you'll commonly see: likes, shares, and views; click-throughs, which are the number of people exposed to an ad who click on a link; and sales conversions, which is the number of people who click a link and make a purchase. So all of these are KPIs, and a KPI is a metric, again, that relates directly to the achievement of your business objective or goal. So let's take a look at a couple of examples. Let's say your goal is to increase your social media engagement. What KPIs are best for you to use? You're probably going to look at likes, shares, comments, retweets, mentions, and favorites as your KPIs. If you're getting more likes, then you can see that your engagement is increasing. If you're getting more comments this month than you have in previous months, again, you can see that your social media engagement is increasing. So these metrics relate directly to your goal, and that's why we call them KPIs. Let's look at another one. Let's say your goal is to increase customer acquisition on your website, or rather, you want people to leave the social networking site and visit your website. So what do you use as your KPI? Well, click-throughs is the optimal metric to use, because if you are counting the click-throughs, you can see the exact number of people who left the social media site to go to your website. And if your click-throughs are increasing, then your customer acquisition is increasing. For this goal, using likes, shares, and comments is not an effective measurement, because understanding how many people like our Facebook page doesn't tell us whether or not we're increasing our customer acquisition. So it's not a KPI. The KPI is the click-through, because it is a metric that directly relates to our goal. Let's do one more. Let's say our goal is to increase brand awareness. What might our KPIs be? We might look at our follower count, our percentage change in followers over time, or our sentiment. So all of these metrics directly relate to our brand awareness. If we're increasing our number of followers, then more people are aware of our brand. If we're looking at the sentiment and we're starting to see more positive sentiment than we've ever seen before, it's an increase in brand awareness. So again, our KPI needs to be a metric that directly relates to our goals. There are a lot of metrics that can be used to measure the effectiveness of a campaign, but the challenge is to choose the ones that correctly measure your marketing objectives. So let's talk about our ROI. When we talk about ROI for social media, we use this formula here: the total money earned, saved, or avoided minus the total money invested over the total money invested times 100. So this formula here accounts for all of our expenditures during the campaign and compares them to our costs. Now, the costs are a bit tricky because we generally only count the direct out-of-pocket cost and not costs like employee time or infrastructure used to execute the campaign. But even though there might be some slight discrepancies, this is the general formula that you'll always use when calculating social media ROI. So let's do an example. Remember our Taco Bell filter from Snapchat? Let's make some assumptions here. This example is completely made up. It is not a case study. It's not been published anywhere. It's just made up by me. So let's assume that the average ticket at Taco Bell costs $10. So the average person is spending $10 every time they visit. Now let's assume that Snapchat paid $500,000 for this filter, which is about the median range for a filter on Snapchat. Now, assume Taco Bell ran a campaign that said, if you show us a screenshot of your Snap, we'll give you a 10% discount, therefore bringing the average ticket down to $9. We know from this campaign that 224 million people viewed the Snap, so let's assume that 1 million people participated in the advertising campaign and showed their Snap at Taco Bell. What is Taco Bell's ROI on this campaign? Here's our formula. So we know that Taco Bell earned $1 million times 9, right? $9 times the million people that participated. We know our cost was $500,000. So this is what we would look at. So that's about $8,500,000. So our ROI on this campaign is 1,700%. Successful? I think so. Now, is 1 million people realistic? I think so. Taco Bell has over 5,600 locations, and so that's only assuming 178 people showed their Snap, and Taco Bell could run a campaign like this for a week. Even if their filter only was up for a day, they could allow people to achieve the discount for a whole week. So this is a really great example of a campaign for social media on Snapchat. And so even though that $500,000 up front seems very expensive, when you look at the ROI you could receive based on the number of people who could participate or purchase your product, this is a real good way to put it into numerical form and just show how successful social media campaigns can be. So now we're going to talk about how to evaluate our social media campaign, and we will do that in the next piece of the lecture.